Yo. Okay, guys. So before me, I have three phones. All right. My goal with this video is to pretty much explain to Apple fans and people who are somewhat tech savvy, but more into just other things, and they put way more time into other things than just understanding smartphones. My goal here is to sort of explain Android and then just also show why a lot of these people can be really dumb when it comes to smartphone tech, and understanding Android as a whole, and how their experience is not necessarily their fault, but it just does not really explain the truth with Android. Okay, so right here on the left, I have an iPhone 15 Pro Max, right? A very nice phone. Actually, I use this as my main phone. And, as somebody that's explaining and probably going to roast Apple fans, I just wanted to get it out of the way. I use an iPhone daily. I mean, I like this phone. I enjoy it. It's a good phone. It's solid. It's a nice build. Excuse me, sorry guys. I'm still recovering from some esophagitis, so please forgive me. But I felt the need to make this video. So obviously, I have an iPhone right here. Look, and it's great. Okay, so this is the typical. This is my understanding and assumption of the typical experience of somebody who is an Apple fan or an Apple fanboy, and this is pretty much how they're birthed. Okay, this is how they're created. Okay, so maybe they have an iPhone, or maybe they had something like this, right? Growing up, they had an iPod Touch. Okay, look at this thing. It's kind of crazy where we're at. Look at this thing. Like, see, right? They had an iPod Touch. This thing was really great. All right, this thing was awesome. It was top of the line tech, really awesome. Okay, and now it's time for them to get a phone. And so, they're in middle school and things like that, or whatever, and they get a phone. All right. Depending on how wealthy their parents are, they're going to get a phone based off of that. And that's the start, okay? And most people, if you're like me, you're not going to get the greatest phone right away, okay? And a parent who has to all of a sudden now buy a phone for their kid, who they already are paying money for food and every other expense in the world besides a phone, they're going to be looking for a deal, okay? They're going to see an iPhone that costs thousands of dollars, right? Or they're going to see, maybe the cheap iPhone, but mainly the things that stand out when they're walking into like a T-Mobile store or like a Verizon store, they're going to see this section where there's like, ooh, iPhone. It's like this awesome, pricey, really nice device. And then they're going to see that it looks really nice. They walk up, but then they're like, ooh, $1,000. Yikes. Especially for my kid. I love them, but I don't really want to spend $1,000. And then what do they see? Oh my God, there's a phone available for $39. To them, this thing looks great. Look, it's like, it's plastic, but it's fine. It works. And to a parent that doesn't really understand much about phones, they're just like, okay, they can call and they can text, and this is $39. What a freaking steal. Okay. So this is the experience that they're getting, right? So let's boot these phones up. Let's say one kid got this iPhone. One person is getting this Android phone, okay? And I need to boot this thing. There we go. See, look. So let's see the startup times in this thing, right? So already on, boom, okay? Look, see, this thing's already moving, all right? And let's say these two people are in the same class. Everybody's turning their phone on. They had to have it off. This kid who got this phone is still waiting. And all they see is this M Motorola, and they see powered by Android, okay? So this is what they're still waiting. Their friends are already doing stuff. They're on games, right? They're going to go they want to play some games. Their friends are already playing games because they already have their iPhones out. They already opened it out. They're already going. Meanwhile, Joe over here is sitting and waiting for his Android phone to boot up, right? He's waiting and waiting. Oh, something changed. Okay. Now we have a, excuse me. Oh, healthy. Woo. Finally, it turned on. Great. Awesome. Okay, sweet. So everybody's playing this one game in class, right? Everybody's playing fucking Flappy Bird or whatever the newest thing is, okay? Now, bro, over here, Joe wants to go ahead and get Flappy Bird, right? So he turns his phone on. He's right here. Now he, goes to unlock it, right? Okay, where are the app icons? Okay, finally they loaded. Everything's good. Okay, but now on his home screen, his shit is stuttering. And over here, Ryan, whose parents afforded him an iPhone, his phone is super smooth and there's no stuttering. There's no issues. There's nothing like that, right? And let's say everybody wants to play a game or something, right? So they get the game, and let's say this game happens to be like Call of Duty Mobile or something along the lines of that. So he boots it up. Well, he touched it. Wait, it's barely opening. Okay, that's a bit annoying, right? Okay, cool. The game's loading. Sweet. Game's going. Boom. Well, shit. We had 5 minutes and class is over. Great. And also, he might be annoyed because he hit the volume button and it's taking forever, right? Look at this. And then he gets a message, update failed. So he's like, dude, this phone fucking sucks because now he has to go to a different class and that's great. Okay? He looks and he's like, well, what the fuck, man? Because this thing powered by Android is super slow. It's not working. And, everybody with an iPhone has this super smooth, awesome, seamless experience and everything works. And it breeds this sense of jealousy because their parents didn't want to spend $1,000. Now, they could go ahead and spend a few hundred if their son or, if Joe can convince his parents to get him an iPhone because he sees how good this is. It's probably going to be his goal when he gets home, okay? He's probably going to be like, I hate this phone. It didn't even update. It's laggy. It took forever to turn on. His 5-minute experience was absolute dog shit, okay? That is the thing. So bro is going to go home, and he's going to try to convince his parents to get him a better phone, and he's probably going to try and get his parents to get him an iPhone. Now, his goal, prospects, especially if his parents don't have the best job, whatever. I'm not judging, just this is the scenario. He's going to go and be like, well, okay, my parents are probably not going to swing $1,000, but maybe I can get them to spend a few hundred. Maybe I can get them to get me like the iPhone SE or something. And let's pretend this is the iPhone SE, okay? Boom, got the iPhone SE. It boots on, it turns, and now he can get rid of this crappy and super slow Android phone that he hated, okay? This is his experience. And now, Joe over here is on his new iPhone, right? And he's going to boop, bip, boop, all that shit. He's going to go to, oh, cool. Now I can look at YouTube. It's not laggy. It's not slow. Look, and he's going to see iPhone games or something, right? He's going to look up like iPhone games or something. Like, let's just go right here. Best games for Android. Wait, he didn't want Android. He wanted iOS. But he sees not here. He's like, cool. And then he scrolls. And let's say he sees in the comments, somebody's like, Android is far superior to, iPhone. iPhone sucks. Okay, well, this is his reference point for Android. Okay? This is what he has. Look, I just touched something and now shit's opening. Like, what is going on with this thing? He's gonna be like, no, what are you talking about? Like, iPhones are way better because this thing took a half hour to load up. He couldn't get going in his class. Like, and everybody was already playing a game and he missed out on playing games with his friends. And let's go back to that classroom scenario, right? Let's say he wants to play, like, let's say, maybe he actually lucks out and he has some time in class. He wants to go get the game, goes to the Play Store, whatever, okay. And then he goes and he's like looking or whatever, and like everything's kind of slow and clunky, and he's like, dude, this shit sucks, right? Like, look at this. It's laggy, it's slow, and he's like trying to find the game. And then, just to make Android look better, the game isn't even in here. It's not even on this. So the game that all of his friends are playing isn't even on the Android market. Or let's say it is. Let's say he gets the game's on there. But the problem here is that the game is not the same. It's not updated as much. It's kind of slow, and especially with the specs he has on his phone. This guy right here has it's $39 phone that his parents got because they want to save money and they're not going to blow a bunch of money on a phone. That makes sense. Like, they got to pay for other things. Let's say they got siblings too. Are you kidding? Like, they're not going to be spending money on a phone. So let's say he gets the game, and not only that, this thing barely has 4 gigabytes of RAM, okay? Like, imagine RAM, if you don't know what this is like a table, right? And you're opening some kind of game, and let's say you open a game, right? Opening a game is the equivalent of putting your food on a table. If you have a desk in front of you, you probably don't have that much room to have a big feast, right? Let's say the game that everybody's playing is a feast of a game. It requires a lot of RAM to run. It needs a big kitchen table or big dining room table because the game itself is like something where it's like a family dinner, or like a family event, like a holiday. And, Joe over here has a phone that's capable of basically storing things on it like a desk. It's going to get overwhelmed and slow. It's going to get hot and it's going to get laggy and it's not going to work. So not only is his thing not working and it's embarrassing, he also feels like the broke kid in class because he doesn't have the phone that's $1,000, let alone a $400 phone. He has a phone that is basically the equivalent of this with under a gig of RAM. Like, this thing has 4 gigs of RAM, but you kind of get the idea. So, yeah, so basically this guy is like, feels poor. He feels like he doesn't have a good phone. The games don't run. It's embarrassing. Like, he can't show anybody anything because it's just going to fucking lag. And, like, let's say he opens up games and they're laggy, clunky. Like, this is Joe's experience, okay? So, flashback, right, or go back to the future. He's in the comments. He's like, what are these idiots talking about? How in the hell can these morons be sitting here saying that Android is a good operating system when my thing took forever to load? It didn't boot up. It basically fucking sucks. And I have to sit here in class with my dog shit phone, but not anymore because I got my iPhone. And it's seamless and it works. So here's the thing. Android has a giant, giant market of phones, okay? Because Android is open source, anybody can use Android that wants to make a phone. If I wanted to really make a phone, I could build the hardware and then I could put Android on it and run it. No matter how shitty the hardware is, no matter how bad it is, how slow it is, no matter how new or bad, Android will work on the hardware if I can get it to work, or if a phone manufacturer can get it to work. Another thing, too, is that they also see, or their parents, when they were in the store, they probably saw that it said 5G, like fast. And companies themselves are hurting themselves by saying this. When they label a phone that is $39 as fast and it has 5G and things like that, and then people get on it and they have a terrible experience, they're just hurting their brand image. Because all they see is M for, they're like, what is this M? Motorola? Okay. They assume Motorola. And then they're like, okay, well, Motorola sucks because this phone sucked. It didn't open up. Everything barely worked. And like, this thing looks kind of smooth right now. I had to uninstall about 50 games that already came on here. So if Joe doesn't go ahead and uninstall all the games anyway to clear up the RAM that is just being taken up by default, because these applications are basically allowed to run in the background. Like on boot, some of these applications can open, already hogging up the RAM. He's going to be like, well, what the fuck? Like, it's slow, it's laggy, it doesn't work. And so this is the thing. Like, this is Joe's reference point. So when he's on there, he's going to be like, well, fuck Android. I don't ever want to buy an Android again. And then, Joe's back on his iPhone and he's like, okay, let's say Joe is, has his birthday coming up and his parents got a promotion recently and all that shit, right? So Joe wants to look up best, the best gaming phones or something, right? Best gaming phone, because he's really into playing games and things like that. Okay, so he's like, okay, sweet. We have the ROG Phone 7 Ultimate, right? The competitor to this thing, the Red Magic, right? So he's like, oh, sick. Okay, we're going to go in. And bro's already slamming his fucking thing. So he's like, well, what the fuck? I don't really want to watch I don't want to watch a destroyed phone. So he goes back. He's like, why does a gaming phone exist? Is it a scam? He's like, okay, well, fuck that. Then he's just like, there's so many, then he's like, okay, well, YouTube isn't clearly helping at all. He's like, I don't have time for this. So then he's going to go and he's going to search up best phones or something, right? He's going to look, he's going to see a Nubia Z or whatever. He's going to see a Pixel A, Pixel 9a, OnePlus 13R, all this shit. He's going to see sponsored things. And companies are absolutely right now pushing budget phones. But Joe over here doesn't understand that his parent bought him a $39 phone. He doesn't understand that this phone right here too is also a budget phone. You know what I mean? So he might be like, whoa, you can get an Android phone for this? Like, but I don't want Android because Android sucks, right? But he doesn't realize this A right here is a for fucking ass. Okay, it's not that bad of a phone. It's whatever, but it's a budget price. So that's the thing. He doesn't even know his parents paid $39. But let's say, he ends up getting one of these phones, right? He's maybe willing to give Android another chance. Okay, so he gets one of these phones. These are both $500. He's not realizing that these things are mid-range devices. So while they will not be as laggy and shitty as this thing when it comes to running games smoothly, it might be hit or miss. It's not going to be the best thing ever. So let's say he gets the OnePlus phone and he's like, fuck yeah, I got this new phone. Woo, fucking OnePlus 13R. It doesn't fucking work, or it works barely, or it gets hot, it gets kind of laggy, like because it's mid-range specs. And he's like, well, what the fuck? So he has to then go to his mom again or whatever, who's fortunately doing better, can afford to do things. And he's like, well, fuck it. I'm just going to get another iPhone. So then he gets the 15 Pro Max or the 16 Pro Max, whatever the newest one, 16 Pro Max. Oh, goddamn. He has a 16 Pro Max. He's like, yes, I finally have the best fucking phone. I can go ahead and I can now play, kart racing fucking shit or whatever. Oh, I didn't pay for the pass. Never mind. Sorry, guys. Not a good example. I don't play games in this. But let's say kart racing was there. He's like, awesome, dude. Yeah, I finally have a sick-ass thing. He's in class. He's like, guys, got the new 15, 16 Pro Max. And then he sees fucking Chad over here. Oh, geez. Okay, let me break my phones. Chad over here has this really awesome fucking Android phone, okay? Now, this thing is a beast. Okay, this thing, for instance, let me just give you guys a rundown of the specs. 4 gigs of RAM, up to 32, okay, on here. Terabyte of storage, 256 gigs of storage. The best processor on the market that goes up to 4.32 gigahertz, basically fast as fuck. This thing also has an octa-core processor, but it's like a really old one from 2021, okay? Now, to mind you, this is the phone that came out in 2024, but it still has a processor from 2021. So clearly, but Chad over here has this really fucking awesome phone. And, they're bored in class. And what do dudes do when they're bored? Well, they fucking argue, okay? They get, frustrated or mad or whatever. And, this guy's like, I got this iPhone, it's awesome. And Chad over here being a fucking dickwad, he's like, yeah, but I got this badass Android phone. Like, this shit is so fucking cool, bro. It's faster and it's way better than your iPhone. And he's like, this guy who basically went through, war to get a phone that's actually good, that had a OnePlus 9R or 13R, and then he had this $50 shitbox Android phone. He's like, no fucking way. There is no way that dog shit Android phone that you have is better than mine. Meanwhile, Joe, albeit didn't want to do research because he has homework and he's like, probably just, doing other shit that, middle schoolers or high schoolers do that have nothing to do with sitting and playing on phones all day. He has no idea that this exists because his search was like, okay, there's a gaming phone, the Asus phone, cool. But, whatever, it's like, he didn't look too much into it. And then, he had his other reference point, which is, the shitty, the mid-ranger. You know what I mean? But little did he know, there's this $1,000 awesome option that turns on super fast, right? We're going to boot it up. And it's like red magic. Ooh, cool. But like at the same time, what does he give a shit? Because every Android phone he's had has been absolute shit and it hasn't worked and nothing's worked well. So like, look, oh, wow, this thing actually boots up pretty quick. You know what I mean? So like, oh, okay, cool. So yeah, I'll just go in and turn the brightness up real quick. Like, look at, so, and this phone was $1,200 for me. It's $1,000 in the US. Okay. So $1,000 phone. This is a powerhouse, right? It says powerhouse specs. It's an amazing phone, but he doesn't know that. All he knows is limited reference points and his shitty experience on the Android phone. Okay. So let's say he tries it or whatever, and he goes in and it's like, whoa, this thing's pretty good. You know what I mean? Like this thing, or excuse me, he's not doing that. They're arguing. They're like, well, Android's better. It's this and that. Like, Joe is never going to be convinced. Joe's already sold on the iPhone. He's going to have the iPhone until he's fucking dead, pretty much, because Joe is like, I'm not going to sit here and deal with this dog shit device anymore. I'm not getting Android phone. Android phones suck. So that is Joe's conclusion, okay? Not only that, Chad over here is being a douchebag, arguing with him about how Android's better. So this is where we're at, right? 20 minutes later, this is where we're at. This is the typical, what from my understanding, this is the typical experience that somebody who, is an Apple fanboy, a diehard one, that gets, is bored, starts getting into arguments because Chad was annoying in class, but now he can get all his frustration for Chad out on the fucking internet because there's some, apparent idiot who's like, Android's better. Like, no, Android is not fucking better, you idiot. You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? Android is not better at all. Like, and this is where an Apple fanboy is birthed. They're birthed from two shitty reference points because their parents didn't want to spend money or they couldn't at the time, and they got a good iPhone. And here's the thing. Apple does not allow for a $39 phone to exist. Apple's minimum threshold is controlled. Android does not have this control available. Google is not going around policing Android phones and making sure that every single Android phone is perfect and working well and things like that. And so what do we have here? We have the $39 phone versus the $1,000 phone. Clearly, this thing is way smoother, way faster, everything like that. But, basically, it's unfortunate because this guy, Joe, is never going to experience Android for what it is and how the device can actually be pleasant. It can be a pleasant experience. It can be a nice device. It can work well. Everything searches well. Everything's great. You know what I mean? Everything's smooth and seamless. There's no lagging. There's nothing. He has all these extra features. But Joe is going to miss out on this because of budget phones being available and his experience in the past. So this is what Android nerds are sort of up against in the comments, okay? Not only that, let's say Joe doesn't really give a shit and he's the kind of person where he thinks it's funny getting reactions out of people. He's like, man, these Android idiots are like, they're all so weird because they like to sit and argue on the internet all day. Like I do that, but I usually do that about other things on Reddit or something, right? Like, you know what I mean? But I couldn't even do that because my fucking shitty Android phone wouldn't even load Reddit because it was taking 5 minutes to boot up in the 5 minutes I had between class. So that's where we're at. And it is a bit unfortunate, to say the least, that people will be just missing out on great experiences like this because while they have a great phone, this thing will not perform as well as this. There will be eventually frame drops, and it will not be able to sustain the highest graphics. It won't have a 144 hertz refresh rate. In simple terms, this thing will run very smoothly, and you'll see things coming faster than others, and you can react faster and quicker, like in a shooter game. So, for instance, let's say you go into Delta Force. All right, let me use this as an example to give you like a visual difference between the devices. So I'm going to go ahead and make this audio better for you guys. This is a internal audio recorder. Let's say we got this right here, and then we're going to go in here. I do think I still have Delta Force on this phone. Let's see here. So we're going to go to Delta Force, but actually, oops, my bad. Where are you, internal audio recorder? Boom. Okay, so now we have, sorry guys. Okay, cool. Now we're going to go into this guy right here. So we're going to go to Delta Force, right? Boom, game's working. And the game's working. Cool. I got these two awesome friggin' devices or whatever, right? Sorry, it's a little stuck on the corner. Let me see if I can do something for y'all. There we go. Cool. So they aren't straight, but you guys will get the idea. Cool. Now, both of these are booting up, but this one's clearly taking longer, and this thing was already ready to go. So let's say, we go into here, turn the volume up, go into Warfare, hit start, cool, whatever. Ready to go. Okay, so right here, this thing shows stats. Like this, Joe's missing out on this. He doesn't, this thing can like adjust the freaking specs. Like you can, make something faster or slower. You can go in here and you can change up like all these different things. Like you can really go ahead and control every little detail and thing like this. But Joe will never experience this because Joe over here, had this Android phone, but this phone only goes there. It doesn't have that. The display isn't as nice, right? I'm hitting start. Please enter the loadout screen. Okay, so Joe's got to get this shit set up. So right. So yeah, so cool. So now we have this, right? So like, let's say like, Chad gets this experience. This is Chad's experience. This thing fucking zooms in. It's like, high def. It's got like really freaking cool like graphics and stuff, right? Like it's, sorry, I'm adjusting the camera, y'all. So like it's really, really cool, man. It's got like, it zooms in. It's smooth. Like look at this thing. Like it's smooth. This is Chad's experience. Chad has this game, and it basically feels like a console. You know what I mean? Around this time, like let's say Chad's a bit older. You know what I mean? Or now years have gone by, or maybe this story example doesn't really make sense. You get the idea, though. So basically,
combatants in Objective Charlie have been eliminated. Objective Echo has
so like, look, very smooth, very awesome, right? Like Chad's experience kicks fucking ass.
We've taken control of Sector Charlie. Be advised, our forces have secured Objective Charlie.
Chad's going. He's like, woo, yeah, like fucking awesome.
Boom. Are clearing Objective Bravo. Combatants in Objective Alpha have been eliminated. We've secured Sector Alpha. Our forces have taken full control of Objective Alpha.
So Chad's experience is great, all right? And now, let's go over to, this is like what Joe would be experiencing, right? It's kind of good. You can't even see the FPS, right? Like you can't frames per second. You know what I mean? It's just like cool. Like got this, but it doesn't have the triggers. It works, it's cool, it's smooth or whatever, but the experience just isn't as good, right? Boom, got a kill, right? Woo, awesome. Boom, so. Right, so like it looks good, but if we're playing for 20 minutes, this thing, or even like a better iPhone, like these things will eventually start catching heat, okay? These things will not sustain frame rates. It will not be as consistent. This thing cannot do 144 hertz in terms of the refresh rate, so these reaction times, like they're just not going to be as quick, you know what I mean? They're not going to be as good. They're not going to be as seamless and smooth as this thing.
Sector Bravo is now under
you know what I mean? Like right now, because it's a fresh boot, you might not notice anything. But this thing, for instance, has like a built-in fan. This vent right here, right? So when this thing starts to get hot, which it inevitably will, because that's just what happens when you play games, right? This thing's cooling fan will kick in. This thing's Ice 12 cooling thing is going to kick in, and it's going to make the frame rate experience super smooth and super nice and things like that. And this thing is also powered by Android. This thing is also an Android device. But this thing is actually smoother and nicer and better. But Joe's reference point is this thing. So, or excuse me, this is this new device. Ooh, awesome, really great, right? But this thing is Joe's experience reference point, and yeah. So that is basically the idea, guys. I just wanted to give that story because Android is great. Okay, Android is a great operating system, and because Joe had a $39 experience, Joe's gonna miss out on a great device like the Red Magic 10 Pro Plus or the Asus ROG Phone or things like that. And he's going to miss out on a really nice camera. He's going to miss out on things like that because he's getting a really nice camera on this iPhone. He's getting everything he needs on this iPhone. So the game also being that it's going to run on this thing just fine, he's never going to see a need for this, and therefore he's going to miss out on the really cool things Android has to offer because he did not have that great experience in the 5 minutes between classes with his friends at the core of the experience. So that is basically my explanation as to why I think, this is the birth of Apple fanboys and things like that. So Android is obviously really great and it's awesome. And if you have had a similar experience, let me know in the comments or whatever. But I just wanted to give you guys an example of how I think these people are pretty much born, and just exist and things like that. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this was a good story time for you guys and just gave you guys something, to think about. And yeah.